Good evening, YouTube. This is Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I hope you guys had a good Thursday. We're drawing closer to the end of October and starting to stare down November. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at a few things that we could be dealing with looking into the start of November. Then, of course, we have one other storm system that may be looking to cause a little trouble just before this month ends. So we're going to be looking into all of that real quick. So we'll start out by taking a look at the slight risk that we have ongoing right now. Storms are starting to fire around northern Texas and some parts of even southern or southwestern Oklahoma here. There have been a few severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect right now. We expect this number to potentially increase just a little bit for tonight. But conditions have been favorable all day and into the evening for severe weather, so this isn't the most surprising thing. I do expect a line of storms to roll through this area, and then eventually it won't be until about probably into the overnight when the storms finally will start to die off. There's a much more robust chance of severe weather tomorrow where all hazards are possible, including the risk for tornadoes here, where we have a 5% area that's just to the east of San Antonio and in between Houston and Corpus Christi. We'll be watching for that area. And then the wind threat is actually the lowest of the three threats this time, and the hail threat's actually pretty high for a change. We'll go over the hazards with that in a minute, and then we're going to start to take a look further and further out. We'll quickly go ahead and take a look at day 3, but at this point we're starting to lose our upper level forcing here, so this storm system isn't going to have the potency that we would, or lift needed to really get these storms going, so to speak. That and low level moisture is relatively limited too, so gonna make for a relatively inactive day. There's still some severe weather possible, but the likelihood of it is a lot lower than what we're dealing with tonight and tomorrow potentially. Go ahead and look through days 4 through 8. And day 4, there is a little bit of a chance of something popping off here, but it's not till day 6 where we start to look at more interesting stuff, and this is when it's at that point where we're going to be taking a look at the long range here. So we'll start out by looking at the Vorticity first. Or better yet, now, here's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm actually going to do a little bit of shifting around. We're actually going to start out by taking a look at tomorrow's threat, and we'll be going from that point. So we've talked about some of the parameters, but mainly I think one of the biggest talking points with tomorrow's system is going to be the dew points. There is a decent area of bulk shear around this region as well, which is also leading to an increased tornado threat. But the main talking point is the dew points that we're going to be seeing here tomorrow. Take a look at this. Mid 60s, upper 70s, that's usually almost always a recipe for trouble whenever you have a storm system like what we have over this region right now. So that being said, no real surprise here, but look what happens once we get into Saturday. Those dew points, they're still there, but they're not quite as impressive. It's modest dew points at best, and then Sunday there's still some dew points, but it's not quite as impressive. We start to just lose a little bit of that energy over time. There still could be maybe a stray pop-up storm Sunday night into Monday, maybe. But the likelihood of there being a massive severe weather outbreak with really any of these days, it's just not there. Tomorrow is probably the best chance you would have at it, if anything. Go ahead and take a quick look at the lapse rate as well, because that's another big talking point here. This is towards the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. Let this roll along if this will load. There we go. And it's not until we get into the overnight hours actually where I think the lapse rates will get a little bit higher. But Euro actually isn't picking up on Okay, I was just looking at the wrong time here. This is earlier in the day. Even then, the lapse rates still aren't that impressive. We're looking at maybe 6s and 7s, but they aren't they aren't 3s, 4s, and 5s like what you would expect to see either. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. I think towards the mid levels is where our lapse rates are going to be the highest or steepest. You're looking more or less for steep lapse rates more than anything, and you can kind of see it right here. Once we get to the 700 millibar area, once you get to 500, it's like it kind of levels off a bit. But when you start seeing stuff like this on your soundings here, that's usually a telltale sign that there is some pretty sufficient instability. I would be looking for more of this towards the higher levels too for a more dangerous threat, but this still has a signal for a pretty sufficient threat. That being said, let's go ahead and start taking a look into the long range. You guys should be pretty familiar with this map now. I use it a lot. It's a Vorticity map. This usually shows me how strong a storm system is. Usually is indicated by these brighter or darker shades of red here. Move this along, and this storm looks like it becomes more robust by Friday afternoon. So basically towards the southeastern flank of this is where I will be most concerned for severe weather and even the threat of tornadoes. And then once we get into Saturday, you can see it's already starting to lose steam. Once we get into Sunday, this gets kicked out to the north. And there is a little something to be had here, but I don't expect too much out of that. And then once we start taking a look towards November, it looks like a very considerably sized trough comes into place around the northwest, well, really around just the entire western half of the country, and it kind of has that look like it could be a trough ejection. I'm not too sure, but this looks like it could become a very big cold-based storm, especially around this region here towards the Rockies. So there could be a blizzard in play there. And then trough starts to look like it tries to go neutral again. And then we'll kind of have to see how things go. Keep in mind, this is also a GFS run. GFS has been very aggressive this year with stuff like this, so we'll have to take it with a grain of salt, especially given out how far we can look with a GFS run. And then I'm also looking at this little system here towards the 12th. This could also bring down some cold air as well towards maybe the middle of the month. Because if we look closely, this is what, November 11th right here. And I mean, this has a positive tilt to it, but this isn't going to be a huge Arctic blast like what we had before from the looks of this right now. Of course, with this far out as it is, it could trend either way. But this is definitely something that warrants attention, and I'll be keeping up with this, of course. Go ahead and look at the euro as well while we're at it, just so we have something to compare the previous run to. It's pretty much the same thing here. Euro kind of has this looking a little bit more robust in comparison to the GFS, but this is also 12Z euro, not the 18Z euro, so a little bit tougher to work with this here. And then of course here comes our next big system right here. Has a very similar look. It looks like it digs a little bit further south too, which is interesting, and it could lead to a potential severe weather event for maybe the plains again. So we'll have to see what this does. The track uncertainty kind of does add a new variable into the equation here. I also want to know how this jet stream right here is almost perfectly neutral looking. Wow, it's kind of weird. You don't see that very often. I find that very interesting. So we'll have to see what that does. But that's a very interesting run that we're getting here from the euro. Of course, we can only look 10 days out with the euro versus the GFS going all the way into La La Land with 384 hours. So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and actually take a look from the perspective of the euro here. We're gonna look at the low level winds here. These are winds that we're more likely to experience in our part of the atmosphere. This is about maybe a mile up, I would say. So I'm just looking for a really strong wind really strong wind maximums at this point. This will also be a good opportunity to kind of look into tomorrow a little bit. And the wind, there is a decent amount of directional shear for tomorrow, but as far as just wind speeds at the low levels, there's not a lot there. Like if I were to take a sounding here, see, just not a whole lot to go with here. Cape value isn't really there. There's not even it's not really any surface-based cape or anything like that. So just not much to go off of here with the severe weather threat. Not until late into Friday night do I start to become really concerned about anything. And even then, I'm still not picking up on a lot here. All right, move this forward. So this is towards the end of the week. Low level jet just isn't really impressive right now. And here's our big storm that's supposed to be coming in. And this has the look where it could be drawing in more moisture for a potential severe weather threat as this moves further east. But of course, as far out as we are, there's a lot of uncertainty. But we do look like we're getting into that 40 to 50 knot threshold around this region. So there is some potential to this storm system here. We'll have to see what it does on the 3rd and 4th of next month. But it's definitely got a more interesting look. One of the more interesting looks I've seen in this part of the season, I should say. And then this is also a pretty interesting look right here with this storm system. So a lot going on here. Definitely a lot going on here. Go ahead and take a look at the GFS as well. Might as well at this point because I've taken a look at the euro. Might as well just see it all the way through to the end. That being said, let's jump this back to about 102 hours out. This is towards the beginning of the month. Oops. There we go. Okay, here we go. We're looking towards the 2nd of November. It's pretty much a similar look here. So there is some increased confidence. Ooh, then once we get here though, I do find that really interesting. And it's on that side that I don't like it being on that southeastern quadrant here. So we're definitely going to be watching the first week of November, about 2 weeks out from, almost a week or so out from now, is when we'll have to watch this real close for a severe weather threat. And then there may be a potential cold blast towards the 12th. But this also has the look of maybe a negatively tilted trough. I'm not willing to really latch on to that just yet. But I can clearly see the makings of one potential severe weather event towards the beginning of this month, towards the beginning of November here. So busy times look like they are still very much ahead here. So let's go ahead and finish this out entirely by just taking a look at the GFS. Just kind of get an idea of what could be ahead here. And then we'll also take a look at the euro. Uh-oh. Okay. Had to fight with this thing for a little bit. Now that we got that going, here's our potential severe weather event. GFS isn't really showing me much anything. If anything, it's kind of downtrended. And then here's our next big storm system. It kind of has a little bit of that blizzard look going on towards the west here. Then our next big storm system right here towards the 6th. Another big storm system with wintry implications. And then this doesn't look super impressive, but it does look like it brings a cold blast in, as I was predicting. So it looks like towards the beginning of November, according to GFS, we're looking like we're going to have some pretty active times ahead. I'm going to guess the same will probably be said for the Euro here, even though we're only looking at 12Z. Alright, so here we are now looking at the 12Z Euro. Get any sort of inkling as to what could be going on here. Just trying to get an idea if there's any sort of like agreement between the models at all. That's always important. Of course, with this being the 12Z, this is going to be a little bit behind with the severe weather threat for tonight and into the weekend. But this does look more robust on the Euro. We're going to have to see what happens with that. I may do an update video tomorrow morning, or I might do a tropics video. It just depends on how things unfold once I wake up tomorrow with the weather. I'm going to try and see what I can do though. Okay, there we go. So here comes our storm system on the 2nd. Euro kind of has a little bit weaker of a setup here with this storm system, but towards the 5th and the 6th, that's when we start to see severe weather. Of course, this also had the look of it digging a little further south. So this does seem a little bit more feasible here. Tomorrow's runs are going to be really interesting because that's going to start to shed a little bit of light on what we might actually have here. But this literally looks like a system that could go either way. We could get a big blizzard in the northwest here, or we could get a big severe weather event towards the southern plains, maybe even the central plains too, and have this expand further out to the south and east here, or to the eastern half of the country. Like I said, very active times ahead, very interesting times ahead. Of course, I'll be bringing all the content here. Also, speaking of content, I'm thinking I'm gonna actually leave a comment on the next few videos, and if I leave a topic and it gets maybe about 3 or 4 likes the most, that'll probably be the topic I cover on that playlist that I've been promising. Because right now I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what to pick starting out. So this is where you guys come in. If you choose to participate eventually, I guess I'd just figure it out. But let's see how well you guys interact. Let's see what you got. So I'll leave a comment in this video, maybe the next few, and then whichever gets the best response wins. But other than that though, like I said, I'll have a video in the morning, probably either about the tropics or then a severe weather event tomorrow, potentially. But well, I'm not going to exactly promise that there's going to be a video tomorrow. I'm going to try, though. But anyway, until that next video, this is all I got for you. This has been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the morning. Or most likely I will.